This is A Silent War Within, the podcast dedicated to confronting the unseen mental health battles carried by our first responder and healthcare heroes. This show is about real stories, real struggles, and real ways to survive the storm and come out stronger on the other side. For too long, stigma has kept you silent, but this is your space to bravely break that silence, share vital insights, and build a community where your well-being truly comes first, because your service deserves unwavering support.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Silent War Within, the podcast where we enjoy talking about mental health and giving you a safe space to land. As always, we've got a very special guest for you today that we'll have an incredible conversation with, and we've got our co-host, Kim. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Kevin. Happy to be here.
Of course you are. I'm happy to be here too. Coty, this is Coty Barker. Coty, introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about you, where you come from. This guy's got an incredible resume, law enforcement officer, and now financial planner. So tell us about you and what you do and how you serve our public.
Well, I guess I'll start from the beginning. I started in Methodist North. I was actually in registration. So I worked around EMTs, but I was not an EMT. I did registration there and insurance, and I was the guy who got in everybody's way to come get the date of birth and the name of the patient once they're, brought in. And I did that for a couple of years, and that's where I kind of got the bug of the fast pace. And I wasn't really in it. I was just watching, to be honest, and seeing the important work that nurses and EMTs, paramedics, everyone was doing. I was like, okay, I want to be a part of that somehow. And I came across an opportunity to work with Memphis Police Department as a dispatcher. In 2015, I worked over there for 3 years. I was on the alpha shift, and my body was just not having the night shift. So I got away from that, got into self-employment for a couple of years. I did everything from detailing, pressure washing, insurance, you name it. And then I got tired of not being back in the hustle and bustle of emergency services. So I joined the South Haven Police Department in 2021 in December. Now I'm on the motor unit there, and that's where I'm at today.
So you are an active law enforcement officer and doing finance on the side. Is that right?
I am. So it's full-time and full-time, but primarily, I am a police officer. It's where I spend most of my time. I got into finance October 2018, I got my Series 7, which is the general securities license. And then in March of 19, I got my Series 66, which is the state and federal uniform combined law part, which gives you the ability to give advice and then charge for it. So I've been kind of in that realm since then. And 2022, in November, I started my own financial planning firm just for first responders. And here we are today.
Obviously, this is extremely differences in work across the board, from EMT to registration to law enforcement officer.
It's a little bit of everything.
Like, what's the mentality? How did you get from one to the other? Was it just seeing the work as you went along, or was it just kind of, I just want to do all the things? Because that's what I was early in my career, was I just want to do all the things.
Do all the things, see all the stuff, learn as much as I can. I'm the type of person, I have to stay busy. I can't, COVID for me was when I was working from home doing insurance and stuff, and I was cabin fever like crazy. I had to get out of the house. So I started a cleaning company in the middle of COVID. So I tried to go to, I'm a people person, but also, it's just in my blood. I got to stay busy. I can't sit still. So that kind of drove that passion, I guess, and ended up here where I love it in law enforcement. And I'll probably be here until I retire or hit the lottery.
So let's spend a little bit of time on that, because I know we've got some police officers that are going to be following our podcast. We've kind of marketed to police officers as well, because they are part of our first responder family. But I've really gotten out there and really tried to hit them, because I feel like they're a little less likely to jump on the mental health train. They're big, tough guys. I went to a mental health conference in Iowa last year. It was amazing. If you get a chance to go, I highly recommend it. I didn't know when I was going that it was really for more of Iowa citizens, but I was really happy to be there and learned a lot. And it was really something to watch these big, tough cops talk about their worst days and really have the same kind of response that I was having. So I found that very interesting. So tell us about some of the things you love about law enforcement and what really attracts you to that over some of the other things that you do in your life.
It's a different shift every time you go to work. I think a lot of emergency services share that, but with law enforcement, I'm on the CIT. I don't actively do it since I'm on the traffic unit now. So if there's absolutely a need for it, I'll go, and I am CIT certified. But when I got CIT certified, when I was on patrol, that was new. Every CIT call you went to was a little different.
Now, what's CIT?
A crisis intervention team.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Memphis actually founded that program, if I'm not mistaken, some years ago, and it is based around mental health. It's based around building rapport with somebody in crisis, trying to bring them, de-escalate, so on and so forth, get them the resources they need for their mental health. And I loved it. I think at one point or another, every human being on this planet has gone through something stressful, something traumatic, something where they could have maybe had some help from someone who's either been through it or been trained to help, the situation that could have improved it. But like you said, mostly not just law enforcement, but men, we're tough guys. We don't like to reach out for help. Some women are the same way. Mental health is something that we don't talk about a lot, which is why I'm happy you're doing this.
Well, thank you.
It's super important and needs to be way more conversational than it is.
So your roles, every one of them has had kind of a high stress demand on them. How do you cope with having a job, all your jobs, to be honest with you? Because I would hate to deal with other people's money. That just sounds stressful to me at its best. I don't like money anyway. If it wasn't for my wife, we wouldn't have any. Because I'm a very impulsive spender, which is bad, and I know that. Don't hit me with a financial advisor talk right now.
You're good. I'll save it for later.
I get enough of that at home.
I know, right? So one thing that is most stressful about the finance thing is a lot of people don't understand really what a financial planner does. That's more stressful than actually doing the job. I think being able to articulate and explain what I do and how I do it, because there's such a vast amount of things that come with it, that's the stressful part of that. So I'm still working on that. So to answer your question, I don't know on that part. With the law enforcement side, we have a really, really great group, and I've got some super close friends. I try to stay as balanced as I can work-life wise, and when I'm off work, I'm 100% off work. I might check an email or receive a phone call or however, but where I'm at, there's so much disconnect. When I'm off. So I'm with my son, or I'm on the motor unit, so it's not extremely stressful, and at least to me. So I run traffic, I go to accidents and stuff like that. I've been very fortunate to not to see super horrible accidents. I've seen some bad ones, but just got a good support system, good family ties. So just day by day.
And I think that's extremely important. So I want you to tell us, not necessarily give us the pitch, if you will, but tell us what a financial planner does, because up until a few years ago, I had no idea what you guys did. I actually reached out to Coty a few years ago, and he helped us get some things in order. So tell us about what a financial planner does and how you execute that well.
Well, it is A to Z, every dollar that comes in, every dollar that comes out. We have to give each dollar a job and make sure it's doing that job. For example, if you make, just for easy numbers, if you make $1,000 a week, $4,000 a month, and you spend $3,000 a month, you got $1,000 left over. Well, what do we need to be doing? Do we need to save it? Do we need to put it towards retirement? Do we need to pay down debt? Each one of those dollars doing something specific on a consistent basis has huge results down the road. Tracking it, monitoring it, being a motivator, a mentor, there's a lot that goes into it. There's taxes, there's estate, there's investing. Most people don't understand how stocks, bonds, mutual funds, 457Bs, 403Bs, it's like speaking Chinese to most people, because they're super focused on what they learned in school, how to do their job, and how to save a life. They don't have time to be a market person. There's
Right.
so much information that goes into it to manage it. I giggle sometimes because I'll reach out, and I try not to do any cold calling. I don't do like, hey, let me manage your stuff. Like, I want everything to be organic and people to come to me based on referrals or however. And I'll have a conversation sometimes on some of my posts in the comments, and they'll say, my husband handles that. I'm like, oh, cool. How long has your husband been in finance? And they're like, well, he's not. I'm like, oh, okay. So that tells me like you're doing the best you can. And, I don't know the person, so they may be just as educated as I am, because I'm, on the early end of my career, a lot of it is, licensure, but most of the planning stuff is self-taught on how you talk to people, how you learn the psychology behind decision making and stuff like that. So there could be, someone who's not licensed and not in finance who does very, very well managing it. But for the most part, unless you're doing it full time as a career, there's room for improvement.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
long story short.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I think you are really good at, and that I think you have to be good at as a financial planner, is communication. And I think one of the things that we learn the best in public service is communication, because we're walking into strangers' houses or walking up to strangers' cars, in your case, every day, introducing ourselves and kind of having a conversation with them about X, Y, and Z, whether it's they've committed a crime or a speeding violation or whatever. Or in my case, walking into somebody's house on their worst day and going, hey, what's going on today? Let me help your sick person or your, injured person. So can you give us some communication tactics that maybe you use that you found to be really, really successful in any of your roles, but more so the financial planning? Because I'm really interested in getting to the Paladine company that you've started. So we'll lead with that.
I have taken countless numbers of speaking courses, psychology books, got a shelf full of, how to speak to people. But at the end of the day, the most valuable thing that I learned in communication is being authentic, not trying to blow smoke and fluff and pretend like you know everything. A lot of the things that I use in communication came not from speaking books or courses or whatever, but from leadership books, trying to be the person to follow, not the authority figure and stuff like that. Because once I've realized that if you treat people how you want to be treated, which is something we're all taught, early on, or should be, and you're just real with people and you're like, hey, you've got work to do. Here's how we do it. Break it down super simple. I like to say so easy a toddler can do it. When it comes to retirement, if you don't understand it, we'll stop and I'll teach. Just being a good teacher goes a long way. I kind of brought those skills to my career in law enforcement. I kind of started on that kind of, I guess, leadership journey, learning how to talk to people, learning how to be someone you would want to work with on your finances or however, a few years before I got into law enforcement. So when I did get there, it helped me tremendously. Like you said, traffic stops, I've done thousands of them. I've answered thousands of calls for service. I've been there, it'll be 4 years in December, and we ran the stats the other day. And you don't think about it, you do 10 stops a day, 5 calls for service a day, whatever, and then it adds up. You go back and like, wow, that's in, hundreds and thousands of interactions with people. And I always, pride myself on, I have had very little people want to fight me or want to argue with me on a traffic stop. Like, they'd try. They'd say, you're pulling me over for, BS or, whatever. And I'm just like, look, man, I ain't gonna argue with you. I'll go show you a picture of the radar, whatever. But you're getting this paper and I'll see you in November for court. Just calm with people, kind of beating around the bush. And that has paid off in my career as a law enforcement and my career as financial planner. So that's pretty much the end of it.
Tell us about Paladine, because I'm really interested in this first responder kind of exclusive financial planning group. So I want to hear about what your company is, what it does, and then Kim can lead in, with the next segment so we can get to that part of it as well.
So it's an uncommon word. The pronunciation is actually paladin, and it's because I'm a huge nerd. I don't know if you ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons before.
Of course, yeah.
So crusaders, paladins, knights, some people say Templars. It's the armored sword and shield guy is usually the character. But the definition paladin is a noble. It's from the past. It was supposed to be like a guardian of the weak or however. So it was kind of a tie-in to law enforcement and fire service. We're protectors just by nature. And then wealth management is just kind of the generic,
Yeah,
nature of the
right.
business. So I've got my little nerdy element in there because big nerd, and then tied that all together, and I was like, okay, cool, and then just kind of went with it. And somebody I pitched it to, and they were like, "That's the coolest thing I've ever heard." Like I was we just nerded out over it for a while, and it stuck. That's how the name came about. The legal term is a registered investment advisor. I work for the registered investment advisor as a representative of it, and that's the legal structure. It's an LLC. It's registered in Mississippi and Tennessee at the moment. I can have, I think it's 3 or 4 clients per state before I have to register, kind of like a realtor has a de minimis exemption. So technically it's nationwide, but I primarily work with Memphis and DeSoto County and Shelby County area.
Gotcha.
I started it as a fee-only advisor. There's 2 kinds. There's commission-based, hybrid, or fee-only. What that means is I don't sell any products. I don't sell insurance. I don't sell annuities. I don't make a commission, or I don't make any income other than the advice that I give and a percentage-based fee on the assets that I manage. So there's no third-party bias. There's nobody like whispering in my ear to say, hey, push this product. I worked everywhere from, I don't want to say any names, but I've worked for 4 or 5 very large broker-dealers. And it was always the same thing. This is how we market to people. This is how you get a book of business. This is how you sell stuff. And I hate sales. I hate driving through car lots. I hate going to Best Buy. Like I hate like the element of being approached and saying, hey, let me sell something because I'm going to make money from it. And I did not do well mentally in the insurance field. I got like the rookie of the year, top sales, whatever. When I went my first year solo, I actually started with my father-in-law at the time. I'm divorced as of last year, but my father-in-law at the time kind of took me under his wing and taught me a lot about the industry. And then when I branched out on my own after a year being an assistant, I quickly found out I was like, I cannot be a salesman. I can't do it. I can't sit across like from people with something as important as money. I can't say, there's always going to be bias. If I know I'm going to make money off of doing something rather than something else, there's always that thought in the back of your head, like, is the right thing for this person? And with the fee only route, if I say, okay, well, I've got a young couple and they need to meet, 3 or 4 times a year, $300 for the year for planning, and they can come as much as they want, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, have the questions that they need answered. If they need education about any of this stuff, it's all included. So instead of making money on the transactions, if I bring money in, if they get a rollover, if they buy an insurance product, instead of making a transactional income, I set it as, okay, well, if I can have 150 families paying a small retainer, I can just work with those people for the rest of their lives and my life and make a decent income. The only difference is now it's a numbers game of how many families I can serve as opposed to how many transactions I can make. So there's still somewhat of an element of I have to market myself, but I don't represent anybody or I don't make any money unless I have an agreement with the client. Yeah, my services are valuable enough to hire you. So I know it's a super long answer, but
No, that's what I love. Yeah.
it is the closest thing that I could get to unbiased in the stock market realm. Because we've all seen Wolf on Wall Street. We've all seen.
Yeah.
I love that movie, but
Me too.
it's horrible. It's terrible.
It's
It's
terrible.
a crime. But it's it's entertaining, and that's what grips people is entertaining and drama and so on and so forth. There's no drama, there's no entertainment with money. Nobody likes talking about debt. Nobody likes talking about long-term care. There's no fun in financial planning. So I try to make it as affordable, educational, and as available to everybody within our emergency services bubble. So the only way I knew how to do that was start my own.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Coty, I really like your approach, and I like your mission. Like you said, it kind of resonates with me. You hate doing things where people kind of come in and push you towards making a decision. And
I can't do it.
money management is just not one of those topics that I don't think anyone would feel really comfortable being pushed around. It's already a hard topic. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding it, a lot of questions. And I think for a lot of us, it's an anxiety inducing thing. And I appreciate, your honesty and your ability to be genuine and a good hearted person. We don't encounter those always. But one of the most deeply meaningful commitments for your firm is to offer financial planning services entirely free of charge for life to the families who make the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. This commitment extending to spouse and children is truly powerful. Could you tell us about your vision and the meaning behind that commitment and why it's so central to your firm's identity?
If you've been in law enforcement enough, or if you've been in emergency services enough, or medical, anything in this field, you've seen death. You've seen the death of the general public, strangers. You've seen people who retire that pass away a couple months into their retirement because their body finally starts to relax and shuts down. You've seen, if you're in law enforcement, firefighting and stuff like that, where we're out in the field, you've seen your coworkers, friends, their families, accidents, whatever it may be. And that's a really heavy thing to deal with, not only for the people who work with them, but for the families that they leave behind. So my mission was to be different. I wanted to be different from the big corporations. I wanted to be different from anybody in this space. So I sat down one day and I was like, okay, well, how can I do that? How can I serve in the greatest capacity in my role, in my position? And that was what I came up with. I was like, okay, well, the people who lose a first responder due to their service don't want some guy representing an insurance firm, representing a financial planning firm, whoever, reaching out to them at any point to say, hey, let me help you, right? So the only way to get past that, this guy's a scumbag feeling, is free. That's the only way that I can serve in a capacity that's like, I don't want anything from you, but if I can help you, it costs me almost nothing to spend a couple hours with you to at least help you avoid making a huge tax mistake or making a financial mistake that could throw you off the rails. When we make decisions financially with emotion, it's usually wrong. Whether that's an investment choice, whether it's what do I do in this scenario? If you use emotion to make that choice, it's usually wrong. Same thing with if you're in the back of the unit, if you're on a critical call, if you're not thinking logically, the chances of mistake are high. So that's what I came up with. I was like, this is the best answer to this problem that I could find. My only hope is that people learn who I am as a business owner, who I am as a financial planner, through that effort, and then support the business. Obviously, it is a for-profit business, so it's not entirely profitable, but it's my baby. It's, something I want to grow. Eventually, I want to have people with the same mindset and mission to work with me in the future as, junior advisors or partners or however. But to get there, that was just one of the steps I decided to take was, you know what, we're going to stick to our core values, stick to the purpose. And if you lose a loved one due to line of duty, or I also recently updated that. I don't know if I put it on the homepage yet, but if it is like we had a ATV accident where a lieutenant in a city nearby passed away. And I don't reach out to the families directly, but I say, hey, if anyone has a connection, if they know that they need my help, they're more than welcome to come my way, and it's free. That's kind of the approach that I take to that, because I don't like to be in people's inboxes saying, hey, I know someone just died, but let's talk about money. So
I was going to ask.
Yeah. And, that's something I had to learn over time, because I have done it where I'm like, I don't know when the right time to reach out is. There really is no right time. It's something they're going to struggle with, losing a loved one the rest of their life. Whether it's 6 months, a year from now, it's still going to be hard to say, hey, I want to talk about this stuff. And, in finance, 6 months, a lot of decisions can be made. So do you be fast? Do you be slow? So that's why I kind of was like, all right, I'm going to back off. I'm going to put this message out there, put this, this offer out there, and just let it happen organically.
Did you ever have a poor experience with financial planning yourself or somebody in your family that prompted you further down into this hole?
Yeah. to keep it kind of brief, when I was 18, I was raised by my mom and my grandma. My mom was working 2 jobs. She was everything from medical transcription, waitress, whatever she could do to kind of keep us afloat. I'm from Millington, Tennessee. And when I was 18, it was May, I want to say 4th or 5th, when we had a big flood. And I was getting ready to plan for, like, am I going to go to college? Am I going to start working? What am I going to do with my life? And we had like 4 feet of standing water in our house for about 2 weeks, I think. We were living in a hotel. It was completely destroyed. Insurance said it was an act of God. They weren't going to cover nothing. FEMA brought us, some turkey sandwiches and helped us out a little bit. But in the grand scheme of things, it was a huge loss. Mom drained her retirement because that's the only money she had. So the loss was in the several thousands, several tens of thousands of dollars. So, single mom wasn't prepared for that. That was kind of the spoiled brat in me when I was like, why me? Why did this happen? Why don't, I went to work, my first job, cashier at Walmart. And then, I slowly went to like things like FedEx and then, down the route to Methodist North. And I was always bitter about money because I was like, I didn't have it. But then as I matured, I learned that, money don't come anywhere but from hard work and so on and so forth. And then I got to thinking, okay, as I matured and, I'm 33 now. So I've learned a lot of lessons since 18, monetarily and personally. And looking back, I was like, okay, my mom is, fixing to move in. She's taking care of my grandmother right now, and she's getting early signs of dementia. So I bought a house last October, and they're going to be moving in here soon to kind of help take care of grandma, kind of repay that since they raised me. And we talk about finance and stuff all the time now that, like I said, I've matured and stuff. And she was like, I didn't have anybody necessarily to talk to about money. I was just doing the best I could. If you wanted something, I gave it to you, which, I was a spoiled brat, which is, it is what it is. If I wanted the new
Same.
Xbox, I wanted the Pokemon cards, whatever it was, mama got it. Mama made it happen. Right. But she didn't plan anything for herself. She didn't even, if she had not had to drain her retirement to cover the flood stuff, which no one could really prevent, she still wouldn't have been able to, retire on time, which that was kind of point A for me, which I didn't understand until, like I said, several years into this career. Like, okay, well, if you start early, no matter who you are, whether you're a single mom, young cop, EMT, whatever, if you start early enough, you can retire. But if you don't start at all, then you'll work forever.
Yeah.
That was kind of my origin story, my villain story.
No, I love that story. I don't love the outcomes of that story, but certainly
It worked out.
it worked out. Yeah. I think that's actually a really good story. That was great. I love it.
That was freestyle. I'm sure there's some details I'm leaving out.
No, that was fantastic.
Well,
I
it's perfect
appreciate
reason. It's perfect reasoning behind it, and I guess that's why I asked, because I know for myself, and I don't know about Kevin. We both kind of had, some rough upbringings,
that.
and
Absolutely.
money. We were definitely did not
We
come
definitely
from
did not
money,
have money.
and also weren't really educated growing up at all about how to properly manage money or finances. And I'm 40, so I've made a lot of errors. I actually went through a Chapter 13 bankruptcy at your age and
Me
paid it
too.
off,
A lot of people have.
because
Yeah,
nobody
me
ever
too.
nobody ever explained to me that the more you charge on a credit card, the higher the bill goes. And boy, oh boy, did I
Well,
make a
well,
huge mistake.
you want to know what nobody explained to me? Nobody explained to me that when you take out loans with your then wife, when that then wife divorces you or you divorce her, those are yours now. Per
Yeah.
the judges in Mississippi, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why
All
I
right.
had to file, but that's a whole different story. One of the things that I think that your firm does that I really like, that I found on your website when I was doing a little research on who Coty Barker was, and this, say it again,
Paladin.
Paladin. There you go.
There you go.
I just wanted to make sure I got it right.
You're good.
When I was doing a little research on you, one of the things that you guys put on your website is it's impossible to give 100% of your personal life when your personal life's out of order. I think that, just to stop there before going any further, I think that for me, financial struggles can deeply affect my mental health. When we don't have money, it is, in the times of our lives where we have not had any money, and you start to think about, things you never thought you'd think about, like, wow, I really don't have the money to go to a restaurant. I've never had to wonder if I was going to be able to buy groceries, but, we were always, once I got a big boy job, if you will, one of the pleasures in life that I took is, oh, now I can eat out. And I spent so much money.
Yeah.
If I could have all that money back, I would be so rich right now. But it does. It affects people's mental health. So can you talk a little bit about that struggle that maybe you encounter with some of the first responders that you serve, or maybe customers in the past, where mental health is directly tied to finances? That's part of what keeps our mental health strong in some senses.
Yeah, I actually had a meeting last week with a young couple, and when we start to do a breakdown of monthly expenses, I always get to groceries and dining out, and I always kind of giggle because I'm like, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're wrong. Whatever you think you're spending, double it. I think they said like, yeah, maybe like $500 a month dining out or something. That includes fast food, going out to eat, something like that. I'm like, okay. I was like, all right, we'll go ahead and link your bank account. And they're like, huh? And I was like, yep, you can, just like Credit Karma, you link your bank account and it shows all your transactions. It gives you a total over the last 90 days or 6 months or whatever. I was like, go ahead and link it and then let me know when you're done and we'll take a look at it. So I took that 500 and then I was like, buddy, like y'all have had like 240 transactions over the last 90 days on either fast food or dining out. And they were like, oh my goodness. The average spend of like $17. I can't do that quick math on my head, but
it's a lot.
It's a lot. So
it's a lot.
Just opening the envelope on that issue, because they had no idea that it was, that frequent. So that's one of the big ones is dining out. So I got a special guest here. I don't know if y'all can see him. The screen is like 3-way on mine. So come on in here. You gonna say hi? You gonna wave? I got
Hey,
Eli
buddy.
with me. No, he's gonna be shy. Anyway, repeat your original question because I got totally sidetracked.
No, I was just saying that finances and mental health kind of go hand in hand.
Yes.
And it's one of those things that really cause us some, maybe trauma is not the right word, but definitely some angst when you talk about finances. Yeah. Uncertainty. That's where I'm going with it.
Mental health as it relates to finance on the job. If you're worried about, like for me, I'm not perfect by any means. I will fully admit that when I was going through my divorce, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know 100% like what the outcome of the divorce was going to be, how the debts were going to be split, how anything, like I have to see everything on paper type person. I have to see, guaranteed. Oh, there we go.
There he is.
I have to see what is for certain before I play my chips or whatever. So that uncertainty carried over into my job. One of my supervisors pulled me aside and they're like, hey, I just wanted to reach out and make sure you're okay. I know you're going through the divorce and everything, but more importantly, I've noticed like you're not so much yourself in your performance numbers. Your citations are down, or like you haven't, been as hot in this area as you normally are. However, he just kind of reached out and I'm just like, I didn't even realize, I've just been kind of like 10 and 2, like, put the blinders on, go to work, go home, go to work, go home. And he was like, okay, I'm just making sure you're good. And I'm like, yes, thank you. Like, I'm good. Like, I've got my support system. I just didn't realize that I was letting, the emotional toll of everything that goes through that process influence my career. So I think we're going to sit in now. But
I love it.
But yeah, it was a couple months period there where I was just like, okay, I was just in the rut, and it's not fun. Nobody wants to go through something like that. And once I kind of got on the other side of it, I'm like, okay, now I can kind of breathe. And my numbers came back up. My supervisor, again, he was like, hey, I see you're coming back to normal and glad to have you back. Like I said, we got a really great group. So that's super important in keeping that steady. But when it comes to, like we have PBA, we have law resources to call if we're in a critical incident or something like that. So I always have that sort of stuff for me personally, but I know y'all have like malpractice and stuff in the medical field, insurance wise. So if you didn't have that insurance, would you do a very, very risky procedure? No. not comfortably. It would always be in the back of your head. The mental hesitation that could come with some very important choice, thinking, am I going to lose my house? Am I going to get sued for everything I own if I do this wrong, even though this person needs it to save their life? And and now you're losing time, you're losing tact, you're losing potentially the ability to save a life, which could be a suit itself. High risk. You have to mitigate as much risk as you can in this line of work, and taking care of your mental health is part of that.
Speaking of divorce, I know for police, obviously I'm a respiratory therapist. I have my 403B
There's a stigma
through my job. But like with fire and police and finances, at least I know for Mississippi, I can't speak for Tennessee, there's Mississippi PERS.
Yes.
Retirement. And so in Mississippi, when you divorce, it becomes half marital property, I believe, depending on the length of time that you're married. That itself, and maybe you can speak more on that, poses a specific shift maybe for fire and police, because it almost can make you feel like you're trapped into a marriage, good or not, because of the financial aspect. And I mean, you're losing half of your livelihood if you choose to leave that marriage.
I think certain personality types deal better with that than others. Not that you can categorize everyone based on like a type or whatever, but some people struggle with commitment when there are things financially on the line. Like some people see like red flag if there's any sort of risk at all. Like I can lose half my stuff. Like why would I ever sign up for that? Let's just be not married, or let's just split or whatever. Like you said, I was very blessed. I have still what I would consider a friendship with my ex-wife. We're great co-parents. She took her vehicle and retirement and all that stuff. All that stuff is still hers. All my stuff is still mine. We just did a 50-50 and came to an agreement. So I can't necessarily speak on the negative side personally, but I have seen where divorce is said, okay, well, I've got to do a QDRO of, $157,000 to my ex-wife when I retire. Can you help me plan for that? That was one of the first people I ever spoke to about retirement. I was just like, who now? What now? Why? I was like, what was the reason? He was like, yeah, we were married, and the court determined that while I was, married during that time, it's, a portion of what they put in, a portion of what the city put in, a portion of the gain. It's all of it, just like it was theirs. What's mine is yours is mine under the eyes of the law. So yes, to answer your question, it can be very detrimental to a financial plan to say, okay, well, I need 700 to 800,000 to retire, but I have to pay 200 of it to my ex-wife, so I'm behind 200, from my goal. How can I help? And this person's 55 and they retire at 60, and I'm like, you're out of the game of accumulation. You're in your preservation stage now. You got to make it last, as opposed to getting back into stocks and stuff in your late 50s, because if 700 turns into 400 because you made a bad timing or whatever, because no one can time the market, then you're going to look at me like I'm crazy, where I could just say, we could have planned for this sooner,
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing to tell people.
That is a hard thing to tell people. I think one of the other financial stressors that I have personally experienced, and especially EMS, is, there's not any, especially if now I'm a leader, so it's a salaried position. But when I was hourly, EMS people had the ability to write their own checks. So the pay was erratic. The hours were erratic. There was never, if you asked me what my base pay was, I couldn't tell you, because there was never a base per se, because it was always built in overtime or overtime that I was picking up. So I think that causes a little bit of a high pressure situation when you can't really nail down how much money that you're bringing in. How do you, and I see people, especially so we're kind of big on the social media stars. That's a lot of our guests. It's a lot of where we're pulling guests from. There was a guy that we had here, and you may be familiar with him, Shade Tree Cardiology, interviewed with us. And he said he's a celebrity with a little bitty C. Yeah. So that's kind of what I've adopted. We interview little bitty C celebrities. But one of the things that he brought up was that, stressors of all kinds bleed into our space. And we've heard throughout our entire careers, leave work at work and leave home at home. That's a really hard concept to grasp onto when you start talking about finances, and then you add that on top of all the other things we deal with daily. Do you have any advice as to how we can kind of manage all these stressors at one time and still be financially well, in the sense of what you do, and also as a law enforcement officer, you can speak to this as well. How can we deal with the stressors and still be financially well and be able to leave at least that piece at the door, knowing that we have some security there?
Yeah, and I think what you said was right. Security. And security is a mindset of, I know I'm going to be okay, is basically what that means. And you don't really have that feeling when it comes to your money until you do the work. So if you have a paycheck that comes in and you know roughly what it is. So let's say, for example, I know I'm going to get 84 hours of pay period. I don't know how much overtime I'm going to get. It could be, 128 hours, or it could be just the 84. So what I do is when I have my planning software up, I put in a salary. We use what your base is. If you're hourly, we use, your trend of your hours per year divided by 12. And we know we have that at the bare minimum. And then we say, okay, well, how much overtime do you work on average per year? And we break it down and say, okay, we can expect, at least 80% of that to happen next year. You're still in good health, so on and so forth. Like, yeah, okay. So we can have a best case and worst case scenario for the income. Same thing for expenses. No one can plan for their engine going out. No one can, predict that the engine's going out until it starts ticking. No one can predict that their kids are gonna fall on a trampoline and hurt their arm. No one can predict certain things like that, but you can save just a general emergency fund. You can make those cushions. When it comes to security, I think just confidence. Once you have someone to say, okay, you're gonna be fine if you do this. You have wiggle room here. You have time. You have things that you can do to improve your situation. You just have to be strict with it. And if I have somebody, like you said, ties to law enforcement, if you have a cop who, we're doing a felony stop on a murder suspect, and if there's any inkling in the back of his mind while he's giving commands, like, it's not going to be, did I do my budget right? Did I do
Right?
Am I invested correctly? It's not that. It's if I have to eliminate a threat here, I have to be so certain. Like, I'm sure you've seen people who will hesitate, whether it's fear of judgment from the media, whether it's just general scared, to take a life, which is a normal human feeling. But you pile that on. If you've got a crowd yelling at you, what are you doing? Whatever, it's going to make you hesitate. Money's the same way. If you know you're on path for bankruptcy and you come to work and something really bad happens, at some point you're going to say, this is going to make that worse in the back of your head. Like, now I'm for sure going to have a bankruptcy. Like, I'm going to miss work. I'm going to, all of these things can affect judgment. It can affect everything. So that's kind of the baseline. When it comes to being secure in yourself and the decisions you make, money is a huge part of it. I don't know if I answered your question. I kind of
you did.
To go.
One of the other things that I really enjoy about your firm is I found it really funny. You don't sugarcoat things, but we won't leave you in the dark. Just real talk. How do you think this typical, like, financial cookie cutter type of mentality hurts the industry of financial planning? Because I feel like there's this guy, and I'm not going to say his name. I know his name, but I'm not going to say his name. There's this guy that's on TikTok. He's got his own podcast, and he just berates these people when they say
the initials CH.
It is. Oh yeah. How do you keep from falling into that? Because I feel like,
so look, I went through the mental struggle of, why is this guy so famous so fast? Because if you go back and look at, I'm a nerd for analytics. If you go back and look at his channel, it grew faster than Dave Ramsey from start to not, because he got a production team together. He has a whole group. He has a script, but I don't think they're real. Some of the situations may be real, but there are a lot of actors, and he's the biggest.
You think it's like a Jerry Springer setup where everything's kind of
100%, and I'll tell you why. If I'm sitting across the table from you and I come to you for help and you start berating me like that, I'm going to pop you in the mouth.
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna be real with you. So, or at least think about it, right? No crimes committed.
Yeah.
He talks down to people, and that is the drama element. That's the entertainment. Dave Ramsey is legally an entertainer. He doesn't have any financial licenses, but his intentions are there and great, which is why he's had so much prosperity.
So much success, yeah.
Right. So he's taught people the basics on the fundamentals. He's taught people how to, eliminate debt, which is, snowball versus avalanche method, so on and so forth, which are great principles. He teaches on principles. He's the dad. He's the father figure, which a lot of us need. So he saw that need. He fit that need. And that's why he has the success that he has, minus his like real estate stuff. But CH has just jumped right into the drama element, the entertainment side of it. I can't believe he said that to these people, or I can't believe these people have $1 million in Starbucks over the last year. Like, it's like the absurd factor, right? We all watched Fear Factor because people were eating cockroaches. It was just like, you can't look away, right? Same thing. So he also, to my knowledge, does not have any licenses, doesn't have anything, but he is 100% raking in the money on the views, on the TikTok, the merchandise, the partnerships. And me and my licensed self, which has books and books of rules that I have to follow for FINRA, SEC, the Securities Division of Mississippi, hundreds, like getting no testimonials, no misleading or untrue statements. Like, it has to be matter of fact. I can't share any client information that could reveal like identity stuff. So much I have to abide by. There, if I were to say, like, I could pick every episode that they've done and find something that I would get sued for if I said it. But that's what gets the people's attention, and they're like, they love it. They eat it up. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe that person did that. Oh my God, I can't believe the way he's talking to him. He's very energetic and, whatever. Good for him. But I don't get it.
I guess I asked that because it would be so difficult for me to see something that is blatantly wrong and something that somebody has totally screwed up and keep the calm demeanor that you seem like you have. How do you regulate that? How do you not go, what are you thinking?
I have a social media policy that I have to abide by is a big one. I can't just be out here flaming people up that I disagree with. Like I said, like over the last several years, I wasn't always that way. I would, if I saw, BS, I'd say, hey, BS. And I finally got some maturity to the point where I can be like, you know what? I know it's dumb. I know it's fake. I just have to rely on other people to use their own common sense and judgment to find it too, or let them fall into the trap. Let them consume that content. Let them get bad. And not just with CH, but with the crypto trend. Every 16-year-old had a crypto page and teaching you how to trade and buy this course, and they're rating it. Here's the Lambo, like Jake Paul, for example. Everyone knows who Jake Paul is because shock factor, right? Like I said, financial planning is not fun. There's no shock factor. There's no excitement about, oh, this guy's going to tell me I have to pay off my debt. Like, terrible. Like that. So social media, man, you know it. It's a hard find, especially if you're ethical.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you dealt with any, since being a financial planner, and I guess throughout your career, have you ever dealt with any mental health struggles of your own that you've had to overcome?
When I was in a mental health struggles of my own, I didn't hear that part because I had fixated on just dealing with mental health in the job role in general. So I want to tell that story if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
My second year, when I was still, I was in an insurance capacity. I was a salesman. That was where I got my experience with the industry. I'm not going to say his names, but he used to work for the Memphis Police Department some years ago. And he's like, hey, man, I'm in a bad spot. I don't see a way out. And to be completely honest with you, I think I might just kill myself.
Oh.
And I was like, I wasn't ready for that. I was 26 or 27. This guy was in his 50s, been a cop all his life. And I was like, I had no experience of how to deal with that. So I just said, please don't. The best I could.
Yeah.
Like, he's still here today, and I don't take any credit for that. But I was like, man, I have this thing for sale, and you don't need it. That's the help that I can tell you is like, I'm not going to sell you any crap. I'm not going to pitch that I can fix your problem. What you need is structure and discipline and so on and so forth. Like have had the time to sit down and really work towards the problem. With everything that you've told me, I think, I think you can, but it's going to take a lot of work, so on and so forth. But screw the financial stuff. I want to make sure you're okay. Like, if you need to, like, come over, talk about it, whatever. So I saw that was probably the darkest, mental health element thing I've seen on the financial planning so far, was like, it almost brought someone to end their life. And they weren't even on the job anymore. It was afterwards, but they can't go back to work because they're retired, they're injured, however. And it was because of a lack of planning that led them to almost suicide. So I was like, deep breath. When I got off that phone call, I paced around my living room for a minute. Like, did I do everything I could? What could I do?
Yeah.
Mental health with me. So like I said, I started off my first year as just an assistant beneath 2 advisors. One advisor was like a fee and commission hybrid. One was straight commission. So they only did, transactional stuff. The next year I went totally solo and I was straight commission. So I sold, insurance, mutual funds, and annuities, had all my licenses. And I got rookie of the year. I got a gold record. I got it was like anything above like 40 grand your first year or whatever. They gave you some silly record. And I took a selfie with it and I was so hyped about it and it was celebrated and whatever. And, I'm not a trophy person. I'm not the type of guy who's going to give a guy on the side of the street who's homeless, like, some food or water and then film it. That's disgusting to me.
Yeah.
I kind of get the same vibe if I'm like, hey, look at my accomplishment, So I don't like, it's important to acknowledge milestones, but I am not a bragging person. But that was one of the very few times where, in my career, I was like, hey, like, I'm proud of me, And then the next year I didn't meet. So that was when COVID started. Nobody had any extra money. There was nothing to sell, basically. And I did not do well and my contract lapsed and I had to go somewhere else because they're like, you either meet your numbers or you leave. And that was, I had already started the process of wanting to get into law enforcement anyway. So I'm like, let me get out of the insurance. That's not for me. I'm not going to tell somebody they need something under the guise of, financial advice or whatever. And then they don't need it. Got away from that. And I went through a period of like, did I make the right choice? Did I, what was choosing to do the right thing to do? I think we've all struggled with something like that, one way or another, because I think there was one weekend where I had made like, it was like $22,000 over from like a Thursday to a Monday. It's a long weekend.
Great. Yeah.
Then like 10 of it had to go back because one of the contracts fell through. And then there was no income for like 4 months after that. And it was just like, what is going on? It was like March of 2020. Eli was born February of 2020. So I'm like, what do I do? I was, feeling alone, feeling like I didn't have any direction. And this was like transition career time. Is this, what do I do? So that's when I kind of started the cleaning stuff. And the only thing I know how to do is just get busy, do a service, do something. So like I said, cleaning business, pressure wash and all that stuff. And it did really well. It was just very hot, but I couldn't do that and start a firm and be law enforcement and be a good dad and, so on and so forth. So I had to pick my battles. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do any commission stuff anymore because it took a couple years for me to learn that it's not all about commissions in the finance world. There are people and business structures that put the people first. They're just very uncommon because they're not as profitable. They're not the big towering firms. They're not the huge entities and skyscrapers downtown. They're not fee-based. They are the salespeople. So I did a lot of homework. I spent like $15,000, I think. No, it's like $11,000 between October and the end of Christmas of 22 to get the entity started, the LLC, the registrations with the states, the equipment, the insurance, the bonds, all the legal stuff, the website, the social media, everything all together. I put it all, on a loan for the most part. Like I had enough capital to meet you have to hold a certain amount of money within, your personal net worth to be an advisor. So I held all that and I was like, okay, I'm going to loan the computer. I'm going to loan the hard assets and just pay it off over time as it goes. And growth was super slow. I was just like, oh my gosh, is it the right thing to do? Is it going to be worth the investment? And then the next year, over the next rolling 12 months, I spent like another 15. And that's about what it's been since the founding, was about 15,000 a year to keep it alive between, all those expenses. So out of my pocket it comes. So I make 60, 65 as a cop. I don't work a whole lot of overtime just for personal reasons. I like to have that separation, chop 14, 15 off of that. And then that's what I live on. I got a decent house. It's modest. It's 4-bedroom. It's not tiny or huge, but I live within my means. I practice what I preach. I don't do anything I wouldn't tell anybody else to do. And that all comes back to that original leadership conversation. One of my best leaders in law enforcement was like, hey, I will never ask you to do something that I would not do. I would never tell you to write a ticket that you don't agree with.
So, Coty, your insights into financial well-being for our first responders, for the general public, I think are so incredibly valuable. And I think they directly connect to mental health, as we've discussed throughout this conversation. I want to thank you for the conversation. Thank you for joining us. I think that you are giving people a service that we absolutely need and we don't think about as often as we should. Tell us about where we can find your stuff, whether it be you've got a podcast, right?
I do. Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok are the platforms we're using right now. It's First Responder Finances. And the first couple are just things like our why. I stuck to 10-minute episodes for those first little information episodes. And we've got 4 or 5 guests episodes. A lot of them are still in editing. I do all the editing and filming and stuff myself. So it takes me a little while between my other venture and law enforcement work. So watch out for those, but it's First Responder Finances. Also, I'm going to have one soon. It's a link directly from the website. It's Paladin Wealth Management, PALADIN, wealthmgt.com. And it should have a podcast link here on the homepage.
Yeah.
Sometime soon.
And you can find all those links in our show notes for this episode. Coty will send those to me and I'll get them put in those show notes so that you guys will have access to all of his stuff. Do you have any final messages of encouragement or advice for anybody who may be listening to us?
Take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup, whether that's on the job or in your own home or your friends, family, whatever. If you don't take care of yourself, your mental health, your physical health, your financial well-being, you just can't do it. You can't give 100% unless you're taking care of yourself. So when you have a job that demands 110% all the time, just take care of yourself. That's it.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you, Coty, for being with us. This has been a great episode, a great conversation. I'm so happy that you got to sit down with us.
Thanks so much.
And you can always find us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the places that you get your social media from. You can also reach out to us by email. Right now, it is asilentwarwithin@gmail.com. Soon it will be either Kevin or Kim at asilentwarwithin.com. Once our website launches, by the time this episode airs, I think it will be already active so that you can reach out to us anytime at those email addresses. So we thank you again for being here. And as always, be safe, take care of your mind, and we'll talk soon.
You've been listening to A Silent War Within. If this episode resonated, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, you're not alone and your well-being matters. It's time to end this silent war.